there are things they really have a hard time describing. They don't know why some things in aerodynamics work. Even though they understand this is what you do to make something fly, there are some things within the law of thermodynamics, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't fully compute. They have to build in some known facts to create their formulas, because some formulas don't work just based upon the math. I read this about 2 or 3 months ago. I thought, that'll preach. And that's the fact. I wrote on the airplane. I wrote a couple of different airplanes over the past few days. I wrote on a new one. It was so nice. The leather was just so pliable. I had just enough room before my knees, and armrests were nice. I had this nice little head pillow back here, and I was like, oh, this is so nice. I rode on another plane. It must be 50 years old. Those airplanes, they engineered them to last forever. I don't know how old, but it was old. I mean, it was creaking. As long as it was on the ground, I mean, it was like a rattle. I looked at the guy, I said, this is a rattle trap. But as soon as it left the ground, all the rattle stopped. Once it hit the ground, but once that old airplane was able to loose the bonds of gravity, a lot of the stuff that was clunking stopped clunking. And it just, and it went all the way up. And you look out around the window, and all that stuff that was so big when I was down on the ground disappeared. And is that not a perfect picture of the law of the Spirit of life that is in Christ Jesus has made me free from the law of sin and death? And so our challenge is we've got to keep the law of the Spirit at work. In the same way that airplane can't stay in the air forever, just basically because it filled up once. That airplane's got to come down and roll into the hangar, and they got to tighten some screws and grease the wheels and change the tires. There's maintenance they have to do, so they'll roll it back out there. That they could. I wonder how many miles, Brother Bobby, a commercial airplane has on it before they retire. It flies for years. They make a lot of money off those airplanes. Up and down, up and down. And that's our experience in the Spirit. It is up and down because there's a lot of things we have to do to maintain a life in the Spirit. It requires a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of work to be free. Right? And so it is important to us to understand the Lord has given us access and a pathway and wisdom that we can live in the Spirit, but we have to decide, I want to live in the Spirit. I don't know about you, but I don't know that there's very many mornings ever I wake up in the Holy Ghost. It does happen, usually on Sunday mornings. The Lord is gracious, and He knows I need to feed the sheep. And so many Sunday mornings I'll wake up and the Lord has given me a dream, given me a message. I'll dream about somebody, and I'll kind of file that away and figure out how that fits in what I'm feeling and thinking. Sometimes it's what I preach, and sometimes it's just in my mind about what's going on this week. And I believe that the other 6 days that we live, sometimes we have to make ourselves pray. I mean, my flesh doesn't really like to pray. I know, it makes me carnal. It's a reality. Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death? How many times have we felt that way when we weren't in the Spirit? When we weren't in the Spirit. And the challenge is so much of life is it's not in the air. It's so much of life. I wonder percentage-wise, Brother Ryan, how much time an airplane, as much as it flies, how much time an airplane stays on the ground compared to how much time the airplane stays in the air. And again, that's a perfect thing we have to recognize, even in the life of the Spirit of a believer. We have so much life on the ground. We have kids, right? We have bills. We have family. We have to cut the grass. I never feel spiritual cutting the grass. I have never had a heavenly vision cutting the grass. I personally don't enjoy cutting the grass. But if I want to live at peace and harmony with my wife, I have found that makes her so happy if I will but cut the grass. Right? And there are things that I do in my life that please my Father, that please God. And He'll look down and say, oh, he prayed today. Oh, he fasted today. You know, there is an idea that, you know, how many of you like to please your mama? You like to see your daddy smile. You like to see your wife happy with you. You like your children to be proud of you. There are things that we can do to say, I am a wife-pleasing husband. I am a son-pleasing father. But the greatest designation that we should ever pursue is that we would be a God-pleasing people. Because ultimately, when we are operating in the dimension of pleasing God, chances are, when the Spirit moves, we're going to fly.